Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seaweed Generation podcast. So anyone who has watched this, which is very, very, very few people, or heard about it, which is probably more, know that Mike and I, Professor Mike, and I met on the most dreadful podcast that I started a long time ago, about just under 3 years ago, to learn more about seaweed and what can be done with it. And Mike was my first victim. So we'll link to our original podcast done in May 2021 and is now February 2024 for references for nostalgic reasons. But we wanted to re-kickstart this podcast, didn't we, Mike? And give an update on what we've been up to since then, and start to invite more people into this world of seaweed and the oceans and the future potential for it, and what we're working in the context of what we have ended up working on after that first fortuitous chat. So Mike, thank you so much for coming back, but also thank you so much for becoming my co-founder off the back of that podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, Pat. And it's amazing, actually, when you think about it. It's like nearly 3 years ago, and I didn't know you back then. Whereas now we're both we're co-founders, but we're also mates. And this is a bit weird to be recording this for a podcast when normally we chat away, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah, when we chat so much that we get in trouble for it at home sometimes. But get off WhatsApp.
It's like your voice is like kind of like the background noise in my house, because you're always there chatting. We're chatting away all the time. So, but what a journey we've been on. It's been brilliant.
What a journey. So let's do a quick sort of whistle stop recap of the last nearly 3 years at this point, and what we've done, because it's been a bit nuts, hasn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So I resigned from my job. I started working.
That was a big one.
Yeah, that's quite a big one for me. So we started Seaweed Generation, raised a load of money. We've traveled the world. We've got our message out. We've built some amazing robots. We've met some amazing people, and we're doing amazing things. I mean, it's pretty cool.
And we're doing amazing, and we've hired an amazing team, haven't we? We're now
oh yes.
Seaweed Generation, when we first did the podcast, was just me by myself. And now we are 10 people who are striving hard to build the robots to unlock the power of the ocean. And we're still trying, so it's not solved yet, in case anyone was wondering.
And it's great when you look at the team we've got and the sort of experience and the expertise and the passion they've got for it. It's like we kind of got, everyone's different, but everyone's got that sort of same goal and that drive to sort of make this difference. And yeah, I don't know, I love it. I absolutely do. I mean, it's changed my life. I mean, I wouldn't say my life is any easier now. I mean, we're still flat.
No, I don't think we're not looking for easy. We're not here for easy, are we? I mean,
it is incredibly enjoyable.
Some days it would be nice.
Yeah. I mean,
so go on then, let's be specific. What have we actually done? What have we built?
Well, what have we actually built? I mean, God, you think how many iterations we've gone through on the AlgaRay now? I mean, that's looking amazing. We started off with that one robot idea, and then it's just sort of grown and grown into this whole digital ecosystem of robots. I mean, it's kind of like we laugh about it now with the funny names that we gave them, but they've actually stuck, haven't they? We've got the Algo Rover, the AlgaRay, the Algo Probe, the Algo.
We might have some regrets about our naming conventions, but we can go and change those later, maybe, or not. We could just keep them going. So we ended up, so Mike, we alluded to in our first chat, and we didn't actually get very into it, but I did do a subsequent podcast with Amy about the sargassum problem. So after our first podcast, Mike and I chatted a lot about what we could do, where we could start, where the sort of most obvious opportunities and problems were. And Mike's work on sargassum, which is the Great Atlantic Sargassum Belt, or aka the seaweed blob, had been going on for you'd already done like 8-9 years at that point.
8-9 years at that point, yeah. So
you're pretty desperate to find something to solve the problem, and we decided that it would be a great starting point for seaweed-based solutions, because rather than a solution, sargassum is actually a problem. But what we wanted to do with it was turn that problem into a solution for wider climate change. And again, we have not solved this, but we have invented the AlgaRay and built and destroyed 5-6 prototypes at this point. We're on like a hard version system of number 3 at the moment.
That is testing to destruction. They've been destroyed on purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, they've been destroyed on purpose. Or just not destroyed but moved on from, because we've learned a lot and then gone back to the drawing board. So the AlgaRay is a robot that's designed to intercept or collect and then transport and sink or deliver sargassum, depending on what the use case is. And we are currently working on a fully independent glider system, which was kind of the first thing that we imagined, but not the first thing that we tested for that robot. So the AlgaRay was voted, was it one of Time's top
Time
100
magazine.
Inventions?
Yeah. Oh, that was great, wasn't it? That was a great moment last year.
Yeah.
And I loved in the magazine, we were right next to the Apple Pro Vision goggles, which are all over Twitter, /X, whatever it's called at the moment.
Yeah. We should do a collab there. We're working on some ideas for making the AlgaRay virtual realityable, data being our biggest challenge there. But watch this space. One day you might be able to go and be an AlgaRay for a bit.
Yeah,
just looking around, seeing what it sees. So the AlgaRay we think is we're really proud of it, and we think it's going to hopefully do 2 things: teach us about carbon dioxide removal with seaweed, using the problematic seaweed to start with, and also help to reduce the amount of sargassum that's hitting the beaches and killing marine life, causing lots of human health problems. But really, what the AlgaRay is a bunch of components which we can reuse on any type of ocean robot. So I think where we sort of started in that podcast about the oceans and the huge opportunity, we are looking to now, I suppose, work on using automated robotics. So we've got our naming conventions are really silly, aren't they? What have we got? We've got
the AlgaRay.
Alga everything.
Alga everything for now. The AlgaRay, the Alga Rover, the Algavator, the Alga Probe, and then possibly the Alga Barge. Oh, good reaction.
Maybe the Alga Barge. We'll see. And all of that's built on the Algo OS, which is the operating system that works with all of the robots work on. Each of them has their own different specific functionality. So there's some code modules which work on some and some which work on others, but largely speaking, what we've ended up building is this sort of like base infrastructure for seaweed in any ocean space. So
what I love
really
about
exciting.
Our vision has got so much bigger for what we can achieve and what we can do, but actually the technical challenge has actually got smaller, because everything is so sort of consistent between all the different robots, and with the Algo OS sort of running it all, it's kind of the technical challenge seems to be smaller. It's just the potential seems absolutely so much bigger now.
The technical challenge might seem smaller to you. I still have a healthy respect for the technical challenge.
Well, we've got such a great team behind us. It seems so much easier.
Well, yes, we're working very hard on developing the sort of incremental modular pieces of each of these things in order to create whole solutions. So what are you most excited about for the next year?
Oh, I think getting into the field and getting some real trials done with our latest batch of robots. I think that's really, really exciting. I don't think we can't discuss our new customer, can we, in this yet? But that partnership's been really, really exciting. And
maybe in a podcast soon we can chat.
But I think the stuff we're doing there is going to be really, really exciting. I'm really keen to get out over to the Caribbean and sort of just start generating data and making these things really real, because we've been talking to all the people over there, and it's amazing. Like me and you are now like best friends in the company, but the last 2 or 3 years, we've made amazing friends and colleagues and collaborators around the world. And I think our sort of story has been, we've got it out there, and we've given people hope. And this year, I think we really get to start delivering on that hope and actually starting to do it for real and really tangible, and not hiding away in lochs and lakes in Scotland, but getting back out to the Caribbean where we sort of started this journey. So that for me is really exciting. And our app, that really makes me really excited, because I love all that sort of aspect of things, and combining and the citizen science and stuff. And I mean, we can talk about that later as well. But yeah, there's so much going on this year. It's going to be great.
I mean, I agree. I think I mean the app I think is what I'm most excited about. Not because the robots aren't interesting and exciting, but what we're doing is, because we're creating these robotic platforms, is we're working into them for carbon dioxide removal and for any other activity that might be going on in a space of ocean. What we really need to be able to do is to understand exactly what happens. So, what's the biodiversity of a place before you do something? What happens during, and what happens afterwards? With carbon dioxide removal, there are lots and lots of different things that need to be measured. Your temperature, ocean temperatures, currents, wind speeds, again, biodiversity and ecosystems around the areas, because the last thing that we want to do is create something that's going to create more issues. But what we don't know is how little we know. So the sort of, at its core, what we're doing with these robots and with these sensing systems is building in a lot of reporting and sensing and data, which can all be coupled together and spliced in different ways to help us understand different things and answer different questions. But what we're doing with that data is we're going to put it into a public facing app, so that anyone can come and see the state of an ocean space where we have one of our robots deployed. And initially that will be something that's stationary, but we are going to be building this into the AlgaRay and the Algavator, which is our seaweed growing robot, and the Algo Rover, which is our just glider, which is designed to go around and just do monitoring, though it may have other capabilities built in over time. And what we want to do is really connect people to the ocean space. I mean, I think Mike and I, unsurprisingly, probably given our conversation from last time, are both very much of the opinion that the ocean is something that we must work with in a regenerative and thoughtful and sustainable way. But it is where a vast amount of the growth and sustainability and economy of the future is going to occur. So what we want to do with this app is connect people to their oceans and water spaces and give that data for people to look at live to understand what's going on in any particular given area. So I'm super excited about the app launch. Is it dangerous to put a date on it now? I feel we're targeting a release date of end of June this year. So by the end of half 1, we want to have deployed several units throughout the world, or in a couple of different places, and have that data sort of in a live feed where individual citizens, scientists can go and have a look live. And then the other part of the same app will be the ability of individuals to report on what they see in their waterways and ocean spaces and coastlines. So it will be very simple to start off with, but mostly sort of data collection, photographic data, where we can over time build up a much more robust picture of what's going on in any given area. So yeah, that's super exciting. I hope we can make a good one. I'm feeling a bit of pressure from software. My background's in mobile apps. I know. I'm putting pressure on myself and obviously the team.
No, it's great though. I mean, I think to be able to get our data out there to people and people to see what we're doing is great, but also get that feedback where people are starting to give us data and insight onto what's impacting on their in their environment. I think that's going to be so cool. And yeah, I just hope it gets really big and popular and everyone gets involved in it. And because from the conversations we've had, there's such a sort of demand for this sort of experience where people can just sort of start sort of comparing beaches and influxes of sargassum, and
We
It's
will
gonna,
see. We will see. There's nothing more difficult than getting lots of people using an app.
that's easy.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think that's looking forward. That's probably what we're most excited about. And there's just so much there in terms of data for biodiversity. We've got I think I'm really excited about some of the things that we're looking to develop this year as measurement capacities as well. So we'll talk about those a little bit at some other time, when we've actually figured out the roadmap for those and how we're going to do them. All right, so yeah, we've looked forward, and now let's look back again. Like, what's your favorite moment in the last two and a bit years, or nearly
Oh,
3
there's been
years?
so many. My personal highlight was my trip out to Antigua. I just thought it was brilliant. It was so enlightening. I learned so much. Like, shout out to Winston, who sort of helped drive me around, and everyone who helped me on that tour. But it was great to sort of meet people on the ground, working with the Environment Agency and government and the fisheries. I met so many different people, and everyone had a completely different take on the sargassum problem. And I sort of,
What were the most interesting takes that you heard?
well, you see this coming up, a recurring theme of people wanting to use the sargassum, fertilizers, biostimulants, fuels, and things. There's this massive push there, but the sort of disconnect between the practicalities of doing that, and that sort of made me realize that the challenge we had as well was not just sort of the technical challenges, but it was also sort of fitting into the social and the political and the sort of societal implications. And so from that perspective, I mean, the trip over to Antigua was just brilliant, because it was like, boom, it was like a crash course in all the different stakeholders. Well, or say a lot of different stakeholders, and the challenges we'd have, and like how to communicate with people and get it across. And I think I've always been very open and sort of honest in my interactions with people throughout my entire scientific career, and it was like, just need to keep doing what we're doing, and take that sort of robust science open approach with people. And I think that's really resonated as well, that sort of trustworthiness that we portray. And I think, like we've talked in this podcast about how fast we're going, but there's also an element of cautiousness there as well, and caution, and we need to deploy all our solutions very, very quickly, but we also need to deploy them responsibly. And I think that for me is quite kind of gratifying when I go out and talk to people and they understand that, yes, there's urgency, but yes, there's responsibility behind our approach. So that for me was a real highlight, that we could get that message out and people could trust us and want to work with us. And what I've seen over the last couple of years is people are starting to come to us now rather than us sort of going to them. People are seeing us, they're seeing our message, and they want to work with us. And that's been amazing, to have that faith and trust put in you. So I guess this is for the Caribbean, isn't it? I mean, people are putting their faith in us, so we have to deliver.
Yeah, I think not just for the Caribbean, right? I think there's a lot of that is true of any area where we would be working in the water or the ocean spaces. And I think it's really interesting where I think the data comes into that in a good amount. Like, so we set out with this, like, we're going to make the AlgaRay, we're going to stop all the sargassum, it's going to be awesome. And now we have the AlgaRay, and we are able to collect the sargassum, and we're able to do certain things. We're not able to obviously clear out the whole thing, but we also realize, not just as part of the sargassum and the local the local population, but on a global scale, carbon dioxide removal, like doing anything in the oceans, is this really big question mark. And there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of skepticism around it. And I think that really captures, actually, on a broader scale, the way that people feel about doing things in water spaces. And that's why we are focusing on this data gathering and this kind of baseline information and this capability, because there are so many questions that need to be answered, and they're so important. And it's so important not to just go gung-ho and do a thing and sort of alienate people. Like we're obviously not all 8 billion people on the planet are going to be kind of along with us at all the times, but there are very key stakeholders at all points that need to be engaged, that need to understand what we're trying to do. They need to be on board with that. And I think there's, not just in Antigua, but as another example that springs into my mind is, you start talking to the environment agencies, you start talking to the fisheries, you start talking to the blue economy people, and they say, well, what else can you do? Can you also grow seaweed? Well, yes. Yes, that is a possibility too. What would that look like? And I think there's sort of a lot of the things that we do will be very, very much a partnership with specific locations doing specifically what they are looking to get out of it, and that will be different everywhere. But I don't know if there'll be too much variation across the board. There's probably sort of like 10 different things that people might be interested in every space. And what we would like to be able to do is make sure that we're able to cover as many of those bases as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that really sort of occurred to me when we were sort of diving deep into the carbon dioxide removal sector, and of course the marine based approaches in particular, was we were developing our robot and our solution, and at first we were looking to ourselves and our process, taking the sargassum, intercepting it, sinking it into the deep ocean, and then looking at the challenges around that in the terms of the monitoring, the recording, and the verifying. And then we were expanding our robotic infrastructure to achieve that, going down to the seabed, monitoring the surface and at the coast as well. And then we sort of realized that all these tools that we're developing for our own process, they're going to be absolutely crucial for anyone who's doing anything in the ocean space regarding carbon dioxide.
Or anything, not just CDR, right?
Yeah, anything. I mean, what we're doing here is we're creating the internet of the ocean, and that's really kind of cool. And it's going to be so powerful when this starts working properly. We're going to revolutionize our relationship with the ocean. And at the moment, we sort of our ocean relationship, apart from the seagoers, the guys in boats and things, most of it occurs just on the beaches and on the coast, whereas we got that opportunity now to really sort of push it far offshore as well, and that's really cool as well.
I don't want to sound too insane, but I think it might be more than the internet of the ocean, right? Because what we're trying to do is observe, get data and information, and then take action, and that action might be different in a different place. Like, it's very obvious in the Caribbean that this there's a huge problem with sargassum, so that's like a really, really reasonable starting point. And from there, we may look to cultivate, we may look to to start monitoring specific ecosystems like coral reefs and mangroves, and see what other possible things could be done there. But I think that sort of that onus on action is something that we're very sort of cognizant of. So not only do we need to get the data, but we also then need to recommend or be able to do something about what problems or improvements could be made.
I guess it's informed action, isn't it? That's what we can help. So,
that's the idea.
Well, that's the goal. That's what we're going to do.
That's what we're going to do. Yeah. What we're starting to do, we are doing. And I seaweed comes into that a lot, because it is a biomass that can have a lot of impact or a lot of improvement in different areas. Like, you could imagine you could use it to clear up nutrients, or you could grow it intentionally to clear up nutrients rather than allowing the earth to do it for us with something invasive. You can use it to create habitats. You could use it to protect areas of the ocean, to stop other ocean users from being able to go into certain areas, and obviously hopefully thereby produce an uplift in fish stock and general biodiversity. So there's lots of different potential things that seaweed can do that is not the case with most other aquaculture, but probably shellfish and sort of mussels and oysters can have rehabilitating things, but fish farms haven't historically had much of a rehabilitating impact. So being able to start to say, this is this is what it was like before, this is what we did, and this is the outcome. I think it's like very kind of key to what we're going for. So yeah, lots of ocean stuff. All right. Well, we don't want to go on too long because we can cover nearly 3 years of content over a very long period of time. But we're going to be inviting guests to come and discuss the oceans, different areas of the oceans that different individuals are interested in. So watch the space for more people coming in to give us their opinions on what's going on. But let's end on a final thought, Mike. How would you summarize the last 3 years?
Oh my God, what a
I know, I put you on the spot there, didn't I?
I just think it's been fantastic. I had a lot of hope 3 years ago, and now I have more hope, and that's amazing.
Amazing. I'm glad to hear that.
I've kind of, the more you know about something, the more unsure you can become of things. But as we've sort of, the last few years, the awareness that is raising of all these environmental issues and the energy of the people that we're working with and the passion that's in this sector now. I had hope for humanity 3 years ago. Now I know we are going to survive and we're going to thrive. And I think,
wow. Big claim.
I think there's no other option. And I think people have there's this dawning realization that we have to take action, and there are some great people out there making this happen, and we're one piece of that, and it's really exciting to be a part of it. So yeah, I got that hope, and that still got that hope, passion, and enthusiasm. So it's
I love that. So I'm going to add to that as a final thought. I think there is a tendency, I think, in climate change and sort of general problem solving to see a solution and go, oh, that's solved, that's done, we're brilliant. And I would just press the point that is not actually the case. If you hear an idea or some people that are working on something, they're probably just at the beginning of their journey, just like we are, or we're not completely at the beginning, but we might be sort of on the first, after the first hurdle. So, don't think that the problem is solved. We need lots of people working on these issues, on climate change, ocean spaces, rehabilitation of nature, preventing bad things and making good things happen, on the land and in the sea. So I have a lot of hope, and actually, I actually do feel similarly. I have more hope than I did, and I'm also a lot less anxious about everything because I feel like we're doing the thing, and that that helps. It helps me to feel hopeful because it feels like we're taking action. But there's so much space in this space. So if anyone is thinking about getting into climate change, ocean, seaweed, biodiversity, nature, rehabilitation, data stuff, give us a shout. We're here to chat and encourage, and see what we can all do. Let's get it done. All right. Thanks everyone for watching or listening, and we'll be back hopefully on a weekly cadence to chat to other people who are in these different spaces and get their take on what's going on. Thanks very much, Mike. Oh, and just for posterity, this podcast is brought to you by 0 sponsors.